What if you could capture the taste of summer and hold it in your hands all winter long? Every season leaves something worth saving. For me, it starts right here in the quiet of the garden. These herbs have worked hard all summer. Before they rest, I take a little of their strength with me. The rosemary, the sage, the oregano, each one carries its own kind of warmth. And together, they'll stretch the season a little further than it should go. Salt has always been more than seasoning. It was survival, currency, memory. Egyptians dried fish with it. Romans traded it by the wagon load. Even the word salary comes from salt. It was once as valuable as gold. My version is simple: rosemary, thyme, sage, oregano, and preserved lemon. Old skills still belong in the modern home because they keep the best parts of life from slipping away. Once the herbs are gathered, I strip the leaves from their stems. Everything needs to be clean and dry. Moisture is the enemy of good salt. I add the leaves to a food processor with a few handfuls of coarse salt. The blades break down the herbs and release their oils, tinting the salt a soft green. When the mixture looks even, I spread it thin on parchment-lined tray. Then it goes into a low oven about 150 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour or until it feels completely dry to the touch. A quick stir halfway through helps it dry evenly. The scent that fills the kitchen is worth the wait. Sharp, earthy, alive. When it's cool, I pour it into a clean, dry jar, one I've sterilized in boiling water and let air dry. Then I label it, date it, and set it on a shelf where it'll keep for at least 6 months. Every time I reach for it, it reminds me of the garden that made it possible. You've seen what went into it. Now let's see what it can do. There's something calming about simple recipes like this. A few things from the pantry: flour, a little brown sugar, baking powder, and that herb salt, but nothing fancy. Just honest ingredients that work together. I start by whisking the dry ingredients, breaking up any clumps and letting that salt carry its scent through the bowl. Then comes the olive oil, the kind of fat that keeps things tender without getting heavy. A splash of water brings it all to life, and suddenly the dough starts to pull together, soft and smooth. You don't need to overthink it. This is the kind of dough that tells you when it's ready, when it stops sticking to your fingers and starts feeling like it's something you want to roll out. It's simple work, but it feels good, the kind of quiet task that makes the kitchen feel alive again. All right, so here's what I learned from this batch. On this batch, we have rolled them out really thin, so that way they're really nice and kind of crispy. They're nice and crispy, I'll give them that. I rolled them out on top of the chia seeds that I was putting in the original batch that didn't stick. This way they actually got absorbed into the dough. And then I sprinkled some salt directly over them, so that way it would be rolled onto the dough as well, and then baked it. So we're gonna see how this round is. I think it's gonna be better. The edges seem to be a lot darker on these than the centers. So I think the best way to go forward is to kind of mix them around halfway through. That way you're getting a little bit of this and a little bit of that everywhere. So here we go. Yeah, that crunch is so much better. I did sprinkle a little bit of granulated sugar over the top, not even a half a teaspoon, just because I wanted to kind of add a little bit more sweetness. But damn, these are good. These are so good. So we're gonna finish the last batch, and these guys are gonna be part of the meal that we are having tonight. We're doing a very special, a really extravagant dish. Beans and greens is what I call it. It is a white bean stew with kale, and that's going to be what we're going to be having tonight with these delicious croutons. Now these guys, the first batch, are still very tasty, but I think they're going to be better for dip, like in hummus or something like that. And I definitely make hummus on a regular basis. It's super easy, and I will show you another time, but not today. So since we're making beans and greens for this dish, we are going to use some of this tomato juice that I have left over. I have been canning up my garden tomatoes, and this is just from the first batch of them. I was planning on canning it, but I think it'd be delicious in this particular stew, so we're going to add that directly. So I added some rice directly into the beans and greens. This is something new for me, but it definitely helped bulk up the meal a little bit. I added the salt directly on top, but then I decided that maybe it might be nice for a little bit of crunch. So I tossed a couple of the some of the fatter crackers into it to use them like croutons. So let's check it out and see what we think. Like, this is gorgeous. I tell you what, the tomato juice just like took this soup from being an all right soup to an outstanding soup. And then on top of that, adding some of the rice to it, the starch from the rices actually breaks down in the broth. And so it kind of brings it to a stew kind of a consistency, which is really amazing. Now, this is not vegetarian, at least not the version I made. The version I made, I used bacon grease to start with for sauteing the onions and the carrots and such. And so it is definitely not vegetarian, but this is a delicious vegetable stew. So make sure you check it out. Try it. And we're going to be doing one more meal on this plan, and it's going to be grilled pork chops with an apple slaw. So make sure you stay tuned for that.
Boom.
All right, so now we're going to try this apple slaw before I even make the pork chop. So I want to make sure that this is going to be good with it. I'm pretty sure that it is, but we'll see. Okay, I want to get a little bit of everything in there. I wanted to make sure that I got a little bit of apple with some of this cabbage and the carrots and all of that delicious sauce that I made up. I used some Dijon mustard and olive oil and honey, and a little bit of celery seed was used in that, as well as just a couple of flakes of chili flakes. It was really interesting. So it's also a vinegar base. So there's definitely apple cider vinegar in there, which I think is going to match really nicely with this apples. So here we go. Mm-hmm. 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 Magnifique, man. I tell you what, this slaw, I'm not usually a vinegar slaw kind of guy. I really go back and forth on it, but this slaw is phenomenal. I love how the mustard really pairs well with the apple sweetness, and all of the other flavors really mingle very, very well together. Even though I didn't have any scallions, I used yellow onions. I just made it work, and the flavors mingle so well. And just remember, we're going to try this again, and we're going to see what we can do, but I think this is going to go deliciously on top of a big old thick pork chop. So stay handsome, my friends. All right, so here's some of that pork chop with the apple slaw. So I think this is going to be really delicious because the slaw itself is a vinegar base, which I'm not usually a big fan of, but this time I tried it and I think that it's amazing. So with this perfectly cooked piece of pork, we're going to find out how it pairs together. That is so light and fragrant. The pork has just a little bit of that saltiness from the salt, and the really, really fragrant flavor of the pork to begin with. Because it's cut thin, I included the fat cap with it, and that just added a whole other layer of flavor to it. And then the really nice acidic and mustardy apple vinegar, apple coleslaw. It just turned out wonderful. So definitely worth trying. You know, there's something satisfying about seeing that jar up on the shelf. It's proof that the season doesn't end just because the garden does. Every pinch of this salt carries a little reminder of where it came from. And if you'd like to see another way I preserve the harvest, this time with grapes instead of herbs, check out my video on Saba. It's a little sweeter, but the story's the same, finding ways to make good things last.